Quick lecture. First things first. Can Nate, welcome back by the way, we're on class 11. Will you read our question today for me?
How did belief systems affect gender roles?
Pretty simple. How did belief systems affect gender roles? We're talking today about the three cases: Christianity, Buddhism, and Confucianism. Okay? Remember how we talked about kind of the trajectory moving from hunter-gatherer societies that were relatively egalitarian. What sort of major change started to bring in things like social hierarchy, specifically patriarchy? What major change started to bring about patriarchy, Nick?
Civilizations, they started conquering more, so they need more soldiers.
Okay, more soldiers. It was even before that. So what development, Anthony?
The plow.
Yeah, agriculture, right? And why did agriculture suddenly plant the seeds for sort of a division of gender roles? Luke?
Because women weren't, their role as hunter-gatherer or as gatherers wasn't valued anymore.
Or it wasn't valued as much, right? And remember how we talked about how the agricultural revolution created this system where now there was all these kinds of specialization of labor, and those specialized forms of labor like warriors or priests or lawyers tended to be whom? Men, exactly. So today we're going to talk about how religious traditions and these emerging religious traditions sort of codified and cemented those existing sort of gender hierarchies, okay? And we're going to talk about it through three case studies. The first is through looking at the monastic tradition of Buddhist monks, okay? So we're going to compare and contrast really quickly the monastic traditions of Christianity and Buddhism. Can anybody tell me what monastic means first? Yes, Brandon.
Monks.
Monks. Or, so do we have Christian monks? Is such a thing as a Christian monk?
Yes.
Yeah. What would be a woman Christian living in a monastic tradition? Yes.
Sister.
A nun. Exactly. Okay. So it's somebody who sort of devoted their lives to God and usually lives in such a way that's sort of removed from normal quote-unquote society. Okay? So Buddhist monks, I'm sure we don't need to go into all the details of what is and does not count as a Buddhist monk, but when they first started out, Buddhist monks could only be men, and it was only after Siddhartha's, who became later the Buddha, right, stepmother wanted to sort of to devote her life to the monastic tradition as well, that Buddhism started to allow women to become Buddhist monks as well. It's a tradition that isn't practiced as much anymore, but it is possible. Okay, it is possible. But when we compare that to sort of Christian monastic traditions, specifically with regards to women, what do we know about the differences between monastic men in the Christian tradition and monastic women in the Christian tradition? What are the differences, Anthony?
Well, men become like the priests and nuns like the women.
Okay, men can become priests, and can women become priests? No. And in order to sort of attain some kind of place on the church hierarchy, you need to be a priest, correct? Can you be like the Pope without being a priest? Can you be a cardinal without being a priest? Can you be a bishop without being a priest? Okay? So, what is that then, this church hierarchy specifically excludes what segment of people? Women. So, as we can see, especially in these early civilizations, leadership tended to be tied to what two institutions, guys? What were the two institutions that leadership was often tied to? What was one of them, Justige? No. Leadership. You need to be connected to one of two institutions. Luke?
The military.
The military was one, and what was another one?
Like religious?
Religious, yes. So, leadership was often connected to the military or religious. Now, what do we know about the kinds of people that usually occupy both military positions and religious positions? They're men. So, we can see how, remember that word we talked about codifying, making sort of cementing, or like making sort of tradition out of. We're talking about sort of structural boundaries that women now held for advancing in society. Because oftentimes, in order to attain leadership, you need to be involved in the military or be like a religious leader. And those two institutions were hugely patriarchal. Now, once again, when I say patriarchal, what does that mean, guys? Male-dominated. Good job. Okay, so that's looking at the monastic tradition in both a Christian and a Buddhist context. The Buddhist is definitely a little bit more egalitarian, but the Christian is very, very divided in terms of what women were able to do and what men were able to do. Now compare that with Confucian society. So Confucianism, remember, sort of if Buddhism was to desire nothing, and if Christianity was to follow and lead by the example of Christ, what was sort of the goal of Confucian society? Nick?
To be the best person you can be.
They're not person, Luke.
To be the better man in your social
Exactly. To be like the best man you could be, right? And so then what Confucian women living in sort of the traditional Confucian tradition, if the goal was this Zheng He to be like the best man one could be, and if everybody did that, society would be awesome, right? What were women supposed to do? What were women supposed to do? Luke?
They're supposed to be submissive to their husbands and fathers.
Submissive to their husbands and fathers, and yes, Will?
Like reproduce.
Yeah, that was part of being, submissive and applying to the wants of their husbands. But they're supposed to be supportive in whatever sort of the male role needed. Nate?
Kind of like to help the man become the best man.
Yes, to help the man become the best man. Exactly, Nate. That's an incredible way to put it. So you'll see in all these kind of photos, when I just like Google image search Confucian women, do you sense like they have a level of assertiveness? Do you see assertive here? Where? It seems serious, but like look at the pose of this woman right here, right? Or look at the pose of this woman right here. Okay, and more modern examples. What kind of adjectives did he use to describe the women? What kind of adjectives?
Fragile.
Fragile, that's a good one. That's a great adjective. What else? What, huh?
Just like excited, I don't know. At least the one of the stripes is pretty excited.
Yeah, she looks excited, but I mean, does that sort of like hands on your hips, cute pose, does that command like respect me necessarily? What does it command?
I don't know. Especially the one.
Let me ask you this, Christian. A girl, like a Xavier girl, comes up and sports that pose right in front of you and is like, "Hey, Christian, what's up?" Like, are you thinking like she's into you or not? With that body language.
I don't know. I'm probably like she's digging.
Come on, man. You need to get better at this. Like, already. All right. Life skills, guys. If a woman comes up to you and has that pose and says, "What's up?" she might be attracted to you. Okay? Life skills. So, like, okay, but here we go, guys. This picture right here, clearly like flirty, docile. What we don't see are images of women that look like they're authority figures or sort of powerful, right? This is sort of what's embedded in Confucian tradition when it comes to women, that women were merely there to sort of support their husbands. Remember, the goal was to sort of be the best man you can be, and so women's primary function was support in that. And we can still see Confucian tradition in terms of this sort of gender division, and specifically patriarchy, playing out in modern-day China, most evidently in what kind of policy and its effects. Does anybody know? Connor.
Isn't it like you can only have
one child, and sort of what is sort of the effects of a lot of the one-child policy in China? Does anybody know? Luke?
Infanticide?
Infanticide with regards to which gender, though?
To women.
To women, yeah. So, we can see this sort of Confucian patriarchy playing out in modern-day Chinese society because when the one-child policy cropped up, most families wanted a boy. Why? Carry the name. What else?
And because Confucianism involved around men, so they wanted their...
Yeah.
Absolutely. Men were more valuable members of society. It was written into the code. So you see, remember guys, what's our question? What's our question, Nate? What's our question, Nate?
Oh, me, Nate?
Yeah.
Okay. How do belief systems affect gender roles?
So when I ask you, Nate, how does Confucianism affect gender roles? What would you maybe say?
It downplays the role of women because, like when you're looking at China, for instance, it's more men.
Okay.
So it's already been proven that their population is going to decline over there because...
But it didn't just downplay the role of women. Remember, our larger concept here is the development and codification of religious and cultural traditions. So, take it one step further. How did Confucianism, it didn't develop patriarchy. Patriarchy existed before it, remember? But what did it do, Luke?
It just totally disregarded women. And
Okay.
The other two kind of, they allowed women to follow their religion.
Okay, you can make a case that women in the monastic Christian tradition weren't exactly treated that great either. Now, Brendan, yeah.
Codified it.
Codified it. And what do you mean by that? Explain that what that
And
means.
it kind of like put down it as like law when it already been like tradition.
It solidified it. So get this, guys. Not only were men and women sort of societally unequal, but let's follow the Confucian example again. But in order to be a true practicer of the Confucian religion, you needed to help support those gender divisions. Does that make sense? So, if you were a woman in ancient Chinese civilization who wanted to be a good Confucian, but also wanted to be like, a scholar or be powerful, could you do both of those things? No. If you were a woman who wanted to be a really good Confucian citizen, what was the best thing you could possibly do?
Help your man become the best man.
Exactly. Help your man become the best man he can be. So you see how that process codifies that existing patriarchy into religious law. Yes, Ryan.
Did women almost brag if their man was like superior?
I'm sure they did. And we'll see like in about 500, 1,000 more years here, especially in China, a huge rebellion among women saying like, this is, come on now. Yes.
Could women advance their dharma in Hinduism?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'll figure that out. I don't know. But also, think about this applying to our DBQ, right? So remember, our DBQ is asking us Buddhism's like growth in China. So, China started out a Confucius society. Why might Buddhism look attractive to, say, Confucian women? Sean?
Oh, it wasn't so male focused.
Yes. Good. So, you could even maybe bring that into what section of the DBQ? Additional documents or missing voices. Exactly. Okay, awesome. Great, guys. You have the remainder of class, so about 20 minutes to work on your DBQs. And I'll probably check them late Sunday night. So I'll give you over the weekend to do it too, if you need.
Mr. Public.